Hi, Werner. Welcome to this little talk that I'm going to have with you. Actually, I've decided to have talks with people in table tennis that have a lot to teach us and a lot to say to us, and I hope it's interesting to everybody watching. Basically, I would like to know, first of all, let's start with the very important, the most important question. What kind of coffee do you drink?
Oh, the most important question.
Yes.
Hello, Adam, first. What coffee? Actually, it's not a Viennese coffee, but a coffee what a friend of mine is mixing together. It's called fire coffee, so it's a little bit, it's a little bit stronger. But what I do is because it's almost too strong for me, so I put a lot of hazelnut milk into it. So that's my daily coffee, twice or three times or four times a day.
Okay, great.
And the mug is Christmas present of my son. So
yeah, Papa, I can see that. Okay, I will show you my coffee. It will take 1 second because I was just making it when we started. I am not a papa, so I drink it in a kind of a thermos. But I drink very plain coffee. You know, it's so we have in Canada something called Tim Horton. We all call it Timmy's, and I'll put it in front of the camera here. Let's see if I can show. So maybe if we get 1 million viewers, they will sponsor us. You know, so it's called Tim Horton. This is the working man's coffee. So it's not like Starbucks and so on. It's a chain, but it's mainly for the police. You know, at night they go there, they drink coffee. People before they go to work, they line up and they drink coffee. And there's expression in Canada, we call it double double. That means you, when you order the Tim Horton coffee, you want double cream and double sugar. So you just say double double and you get you get your coffee. So this
very
is
healthy, double cream and double sugar.
Yeah. I drink it black. I drink it completely black, so I don't like it, and it's not very strong. I know you invited me once for breakfast in Vienna to
Yes.
coffee, one of the best coffee house. What's it called? Starts with an H.
Hilton. I think it was in the Hilton Hotel.
No. It was
no, the other thing.
Hellman or something like this.
I will tell it to you a little bit later when my brain is functioning again.
Okay, doesn't matter, but it was a very big coffee house.
Landmann.
Yes, that's the one. That's
Landmann.
The one.
Cafe Landmann. It's very famous in Vienna.
And we had breakfast.
Very good coffee.
Fantastic coffee at that time. Okay, so let's forget about the coffee and let's talk about table tennis. But I will put Tim Horton one more time. And Thorsten, you know, he's in charge of marketing. Maybe he can sell this and get us some advertising money. Okay, we'll give you your percentage for sure. Okay, so I will start with the Pro Tour in 1996. In 1996, the ITTF decided that the competition system, a little bit like now, you know, it's needed to be changed. And at that time, we asked some national association to organize an open event, and we make a circuit out of it with a final at the end in China. Actually, it was supposed to be in Taiwan, but for political reason, it was changed to China. And at that time, we decided to have at least one event per continent. And I remember very well, this is where I start noticing you as a rising star, is that you decided to go to all the events that were very far, where the other European players would not go, I guess to accumulate points and to be able to be invited for the finals. So you went to Brazil, you even went to Australia. I remember that they were very happy to have you there. And you qualified for the finals. So I will go straight to the finals and tell you that while you were warming up, two players were not expected to be there. You and a French player called Marmurek. Remember him? Left-handed guy.
Olivier Marmurek, yeah.
Everybody was very surprised that you were there because the two of you did, he went also to Brazil, and the two of you went to the faraway events and accumulated points, and you qualified for the finals. So while you were warming up in the hall, there were some Chinese officials, actually quite top. Two of them used to be world champions, and they were laughing. So I went, I sat next to them with my friend, Mr. Yao, who translated for me. So what are they saying? They say they're laughing at his forehand. I said, why? They say they think his forehand is very strange because your forehand is very straight, right? And at that time, the Chinese method was that it's more curved, you know, so that you can cover the ball on top. Whereas you were going like this, which is more difficult, of course, but also you get much more power. But uh, yeah,
I think you mix it up because
yeah,
Olivier Mamorek, he had a very stiff forehand, a very, very stiff forehand. And I don't think that they were laughing about my forehand because my forehand was a little bit stiff, probably, but not that stiff like Olivier's.
they were laughing about your forehand. I can guarantee you. Maybe they were laughing also about Marmurek, but they were
Yeah.
definitely laughing about yours. So
Okay.
at that
Okay.
time, you were not very well known to them. You know, it was the first time they see you, and they were quite surprised with the technique and so on, and they were smiling. And okay, no problem. So we fast forward now, and then I'll ask you what happened in between. We fast forward to 1999. So this is 3 years later now. And the World Championships were in Eindhoven. You remember?
Yes.
Unbelievably hot weather. Like it was the first time in the history
Terrible.
of Eindhoven that the temperature was above 35. And there was no air conditioning in the hall. And I was wearing a suit and tie and sweating, and the players were sweating and so on. You reached the semifinals there, and you lost in the semifinals to one of the two Chinese players, and it was a close match. I don't know, remember if it was Ma Lin or Liu Guoliang. You lost to one of them. You remember?
To Liu Guoliang.
Liu Guoliang, okay. And Liu Guoliang won, I think, at the end this tournament. And they were playing and they were
Yeah.
sweating and the ball was sliding and so on. The Chinese delegation were not in the hall because it was two Chinese players playing against each other. And you know, they have
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
system. The
Yeah.
coaches don't sit there. They were all in a special tent with a special air condition. So everybody was sweating like pigs, you know, and they were sitting very cool, drinking coffee like we are in. So I went in. I was the president. So I figured, okay, I am president. I can go inside. And they were watching, at that time was a semifinal match against Liu Guoliang, and they were watching you play. And they were nervous, you know, and they were all like, sorry, they were watching the finals. So then I went to them and I said, did you watch the semifinals? They said, yes, we were very, very nervous during the semifinals. And the semifinals, they watched it from the hall. So they were also very hot. So I said, what do you think about the semifinal? They said, well, we were very, very nervous. This guy, you know, Schlager, he's very dangerous. He has this special style and so on. And I told them, do you remember 3 years ago in China at the Pro Tour final, you were laughing about him? And they couldn't remember, actually. They couldn't remember, or they pretended they couldn't remember. I said, you were laughing about his forehand and so on. They said to me, actually, our coaches now are starting to teach this type of forehand. They're changing, you know, from the curve to more, now, of course, it's changed again, but to more this kind of straight, pushing the ball forward while you're spinning it, which is very difficult. So they say it takes a lot more practice. So they recognized actually that you 3 years before were doing something that they started to copy about 2 years or 3 years later. So tell me what happened between 1996 and 1999 when you were a relatively ordinary player and then suddenly you became a contender. Actually, you reached the semifinals. And at that time, you were still 21 points and still 38 millimeter ball.
Well, I think there are two things I would like to add to the story. First of all, I think my fame in China has the origin in the World Championships in, I think it was 1990, or yeah, 91 or 93 in Göteborg. team World Championships, where the Austrian team played against the Chinese team, and the Austrian team lost 1-4 against the Chinese team. And guess who won this one match? A very surprise. I won against the future biggest talent from China at that time was Liu Guoliang. I think he was 15 years old. I was a little bit older than him at that time. I think 18 or something, or 19. And surprisingly, I did win against him. But it was really a strange game because we had very strong service. And it was also a little bit luck involved because it was mostly only service and just smash, you know, like kind of the old style of playing this wonderful sport, you know, with a lot of glue and really a very, very risky game. So from this point on, I know from my team mate at that time, a Chinese named Ding Yi. He was coming to me after this game and was asking me, hey, the Chinese, they want to know your name because you won against the future world champion from China. So I think that was probably the reason why the Chinese were a little bit afraid when I played the semi-final in Eindhoven, also against you. So the second thing about your technique, what you say, it's really, really very interesting, and it fits actually to my impression. What I had to change in the years when I traveled more and more to China, because at first I was thinking that the Chinese, they know it all, you know, and they have so sophisticated teachings and all the knowledge of plenty of years of really world champion players like that. And then slowly I figured out that that's not the case actually. So they more or less make it with a brute force attempt. So they have a lot of players and they squeeze all these players through a system. And if you fit, it's good for you, but if you don't fit, you're out, you know? And the best of the best, they stay in, but they don't really show them why. Okay, so why did this guy stay in, or why did the other guy fall out? And now I would like to give you an explanation about this forehand technique. What is really, really simple and everybody can grasp. It's a little teaching at table tennis actually in the basics. So if you play a forehand topspin or any stroke, okay, if you make a lot of angle movements, okay, you have to have the perfect timing, because if you hit the ball here, the racket angle is like this, but if you change the racket angle then afterwards and you hit the ball a little bit earlier, okay, then the outcome of this ball will be completely different. So to curve your movement of your hand while you're playing, it's really stupid, because you make many unforced errors, or errors where you then afterwards you don't know what you did do wrong, because you made the right the same movement always, but it's only the timing which is very important. So the more straight you have your movement, the more it doesn't matter if you hit the ball a little bit late or a little bit earlier, the ball will still be very similar to the other hitting point. So that's actually an understanding that that came to myself in preparation for the WSA, for the Werner Schlager Academy, which I opened in the year 2011. And for the preparation for this table tennis center, it was important for me to try to get an understanding. Okay, how did I start to play the way I play? Okay, so what is behind it? Okay, why did I choose to play that way, this ball or this stroke, and not the other way around? And
okay, so if I understand correctly, then when you were playing, you did not know that yet? Like you discovered it later when you became more like a coach or more like in charge of the academy? So you were doing it more naturally, what you were doing?
Yes, yes, because when you're young, and especially if when you grow up in a country which has no knowledge about the sport, or little knowledge, has no history in producing world champions, so you know the knowledge is actually not there. So you start by playing and playing, and then what is my biggest, I would say the biggest kind of talent is that my feedback loop, the feedback loop of my body feeling is really, really good. So I immediately feel, okay, this was better than the way before, or this is worse than the way before. So, and that way I just try to optimize my movement, my stroke, and I could have this sensory feedback loop running, you know. And this is essential because nobody from outside is telling you, okay, you have to play like this or like that, okay, because they don't know also. So, and that way is just, I think this is the natural way of improving and learning, and that's the way what I had to go, or the road.
There's two more things I noticed about you that now, maybe in the last 3, 4, 5 years, the players are doing a lot more, whereas before, maybe 15, 20 years ago, when you were playing, they were not doing so much. For example, you start both forehand and backhand topspin, you start at table level, you know, and you accelerate the forearm both ways, right? Whereas most European coaches always teach that you start very low with the racket below the surface of the table, and then you come up over, you know, which is a much longer stroke. Now, of course, you don't see that anymore because there's no time. So just naturally, everybody has reduced that. But you were doing it already, like in 2003, even against a defensive player, you were taking the ball very, very, very soon. So this also came naturally, or somebody taught you this?
Actually not. This was the very basic understanding of table tennis, even from my father. So my father was my first coach, and my father, you have to know that he was working at the railway. So he was not a table tennis specialist. He was self-taught, and he was just looking how other good players are playing. And at that time, Tibor Klamper was very influential to my father and his technique. And he had a very, very short technique, okay, short backhand and short forehand with a lot of power out of the hips, okay? And that was the system which my father immediately saw that this is the way to go, because the others, they lose so much time. And also Tibor Klamper did introduce the gluing, the fresh gluing. So he was the first one who was really playing with such a very fast racket, with such a strange sound, and everybody was thinking, hey, why is his racket sounding so strange, you know? Because at that time he was hiding that he was fresh gluing because he saw it in China somewhere, and he brought it back to Europe, and he was the first one who was fresh gluing on the toilet very secretly and hidden, you know? And so my generation, I think, was a generation where this major switch was happening from the old style, Dragutin Surbek, you know, from the very low floor, you know, to the very big straight arms, you know, this forehand topspin, you know, because with the old racket, it was almost a necessity to have a relatively strong and spinny forehand topspin. But with the modern gluing system and very fast racket, it was useless and pointless. So the game was changing massively.
You know, I asked in 1988, my wife is of Hungarian origin. So I asked Tibor Klamper, how did he develop this, you know, loop over loop, like we say loop in North America, but topspin over topspin close to the table with the backhand and the forehand? He said, because I have very bad footwork. That was his answer. He didn't tell me anything about the glue. He just said, you know, oh, I have very bad footwork, so this is easier for me. Okay, now, I mean, of
Yeah.
course, this explains a lot of things, but already in 1988, it was very obvious that he was different from the rest. You know, Yunam Q still had this very long stroke far from the table and so on. And yet it took a long time, quite a long time before, especially the European players adopted this over the table, you know. Now they're a little bit further away from the table because the ball is coming so fast, but still a lot of power with the forehand. So let's jump to 1999. You get to the semifinals. I remember you had a very good doubles match. I don't remember if it was semifinal or quarterfinal. You and Karl Jindrak. You lost in the fifth game, very, very, very close. At that time, you were excellent.
Quarterfinal. We did miss the bronze medal against Liu Guliang, Kong Linghui.
Again, Liu Guliang.
Wait, Kong Ling. Yeah.
I think it was them.
Yeah. It was very, very close game.
Very close game. I remember I was watching this match again. It was very hot. So you could have had 2 bronze medals actually. But when the presentation came for the men's singles, usually I like to pass this when I'm president. When I was president, I like to pass it to one of the vice president because it's considered the most important presentation. I've done it once, so then I like others to do it. But this particular time, because you were on the podium, I told them all, I told Mr. Bergstrom from Sweden, please forgive me, but I will do the men this time. You do it next time. So he said, well, there are no Swedes on the podium. You go ahead and do it, you know. So I came to the podium, and I don't know if you remember, you were very well dressed because you had your tracksuit on, your hair was combed. The 2 Chinese players were still sweating, and they looked like they just came out of the shower, right? And as I was giving you the bronze medal, I told you, is this the first step to the gold medal? And you looked at me, you know, because you're higher up, you looked down on me and you smiled and you said, for sure. Of course, you know, anybody would say that, but you said it in such a way with this kind of special smile, looking down at me like, what kind of a stupid question is this? Of course, I'm going to get the gold medal next time. But next time you didn't get the gold medal because I will say now what happened. After in 1999, in 2000, rules changed in 2000 and 2001. First, it was the ball, and then it was the 11 points. And each time it was just after a major event. So for example, in 2000, it was just after the Olympic Games that we changed the size of the ball. And the players that were going to the Olympic Games, of course, were still practicing with a 38mm ball. But the ones like Malin, who were home, they were already practicing with the 40mm ball. So we had the Men's World Cup about 1 month after the Olympic Games. And Malin, of course, he won because he had been practicing with the 40mm ball for a long time. Following year, the Men's World Cup was in Courmayeur. This is what I mentioned earlier before we recorded. And in that one, we had already reduced from 21 points to 11 points. And to everybody's surprise, Vladimir Samsonov won against Wang Lichin in the final. And at that time, Wang Lichin was very strong. After the match, I asked them both, what do you think? Wang Lichin says it's very difficult for me, this 11 points, because I take a lot of time to build up. And the first half of the game, I'm feeling the ball, and then I get more and more and more aggressive. And with 11 points, I didn't have time. And Samsonov, Vladi is very steady, so I didn't have time. I asked Vladi, what do you think? He says, it's also very difficult for me, he said, but I don't tell anybody.
Very clever.
Yes. Vladi is a clever guy. I don't tell anybody that it's difficult. So they think that it's to my advantage. Okay, I shook hands with them. We presented the prizes and so on. Then I went upstairs to the restaurant, and there was Mr. Werner Schlager sitting at the table with a Coke or a coffee, I don't remember, with your coach. Very good coach, of course, originally from Hungary. And
Karsai.
Yes, Karsai. And he was trying to console you. So I came over and I said, well, what's wrong? And you looked at me like you're ready to kill me. You said, too many changes, too fast. First the ball, now the score, also the service, everything is changes. We are professionals. We've been training for so long in a specific way, and now everything is changing. We have to start everything again. You were really depressed, and I thought that maybe you're going to quit. But I remember what Vladi said downstairs. So I told you, well, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell
Tell
anyone.
everybody this is perfect for you, you know. And your coach started laughing. You didn't think it was a joke. You were very upset with me, actually. You know, I had nothing to do with it, but you were upset with me. And your coach was thinking about it, and he was laughing. And then he told me, good idea. From that point to 2003, so a period of about 2 years, it seemed like everything changed with you. I don't know, like maybe it was a good thing that you lost there at the World Cup. Because after that, I mean, really, at the World Championships in 2003, to me, you looked unbeatable. You looked like it didn't matter who you're going to meet, you're going to win. And you can explain to us how you felt from that point down, very down, the score changed to 11 points, the ball is 40. What did you do to adapt to all that and become the world champion?
First of all, I would like to say that the changes, they were really very difficult to get used to, especially the 40 millimeter ball, because just the quality of the ball was just not comparable. So we not only had to adapt our technical skills, but we also had to now to consider that the variation of the softness and the roundness, so the overall quality of the ball, is still a bigger variable than it was before. So and that was even more difficult to get used to or to handle. So actually, you cannot really get used to it, but you try to get around it somehow in playing not so very risky balls, just to have a more narrow window of making mistakes. The difference of playing until 21 and until 11 is not even minor or not a smaller change. Why? Because the mindset or the techniques of the tactics is now completely different, because first you have 5 serves and 5 serves, and you can, as Wang Yixin said, you can start to have to grow your own game, okay, to find little nuances in the defense or the active game of the opponent, or to find errors. Okay, you're teasing him a little bit, so everything is a little bit more slower paced. Okay, so you can build up your tactics against this game or that player. So with the 11 points, the whole table tennis game was a completely different one. And I don't want to judge if it's better or worse, but it's simply different. And so we had to change our mindset in how we approach to be the winner. Okay, we had to find new ways in how to win, and new roads to victory. So what has changed? Of course, after or when you are in this transition time between the first you start to get used to it, and then afterwards you are used to it. Of course, this time is always very difficult, and you try to make the best out of it, and you make failures, and you are probably not in a very good mood because you try new things but they fail. So, and this was actually sometimes the case when I met you and you were asking me what I think about it. And of course, at that time, it was always the true answer. Okay, I think it was terrible. Okay, because the game, what I loved so much and what I played for more than a decade, is now completely changing. It has changed from the technical skill side because of the bigger size ball, and it changed also from the tactical way of playing table tennis. So it changed really almost 180 degrees. So, but as I said, I don't want to judge if it's better or worse. I think it's a similar sport, but it's a little bit different sport as it was before. So the biggest thing about that changed actually is that I was getting more and more mature. So the very important thing is, or the advantage of a more mature mindset is that you take difficulties as an opportunity and not as an approach to bring you down. Okay, so you just recognize them, and then you try to be clever enough to win against them or to beat them. Okay, and to make it. So, and thank God I was already being 30 when I was playing my World Championship final. So I was mentally much more stable than in 1999, so 4 years before. And I was a completely other playing personality also. So I was very much cooled down also, and I try not to show my emotions. Okay. I did often hear from people who did watch me. Okay, they did say, okay, you are very focused and you are so silent, and but the case is that I'm inside, I'm like a volcano. Okay, and I'm very often talking to myself when I play. Actually, I'm always talking to myself.
But inside, not openly.
Half probably. So, but silent. Okay. But the point is that it's very important to have a mechanism, to have a toolbox, how to approach these problems what occur when you play table tennis or when you make any other sport or whatever. Or it's a mental coaching toolbox, and you have to